So last week, several students said they struggled with the word problems because they were not sure whether to multiply or divide. So today we're going to look at deciphering these word problems and determining how can you tell if it is a multiplication problem or is it a division problem, and what ways we can check to make sure we are correct about our answer. We are going to start by looking back at what does multiplication and division mean and how we can relate that to word problems. I'm going to start by talking about money because we all know money talks and we all understand money pretty well. So, for example, a multiplication problem that could be a word problem could be Miss Gillum was giving $100 to 5 of her students. How much money did she give? Well, if we think about that, there are two different ways you could actually work this problem out. You could think of it as repeated addition. So you have 1 student, 2 students, 3 students, 4 students, and 5 students, which we know is $500. We could also write this as a multiplication problem as 5 times 100. The key in this problem is that they're asking for a total, which tells me it's multiplication of wanting to know the whole amount of money. And they're equal parts. Each student received $100. That's how I know it's multiplication, because sometimes in addition, it can be different amounts. So now let's take a look at division. Let's say that one of the students wanted to share their $100 with their group, and there were 4 people that were sharing the $100. So each person would get $25. That's a division problem because you are splitting it up into equal amounts. It is also known as equal share. So I would do 100 divided by 4 because you're looking at how much for each person, where in the first one, the 500, we were looking for a total amount. And when we were doing the division, we were looking for each individual person. So let's keep these things in mind. A total amount is multiplication, and a division is when we are looking for a single amount for each person individually or each thing. Now let's apply what we learned about multiplication and division. Remember, multiplication is a total amount, where division is for each individual. Let's read this first question together. Julie studied for 3 1/3 hours during the 4 days before her last math test. If she studied the same amount of time each day, how much time did she spend studying each day? So remember, we're going to box in those important numbers, and then we're going to underline the question. And I'm going to go back and read the question again. How much time did she spend studying each day? So I noticed that it wants to know for each individual day, which would tell me it is a division problem because it's individual days. So it's wanting to divide the hours by the number of days. And last week we talked about in division, we want to change our mixed numbers and whole numbers to improper. So we discussed how that we can do 3 times 3 is 9, plus the 1 gives us 10, so this would actually be 10/3, divided by, and then to make a whole number improper is 4/1. Okay, now we also talked about last week that we can multiply by the reciprocal instead of dividing. So I could say I have 10/3 times the reciprocal of 4 would be 1/4. And now we can multiply straight across. 10 times 1 is 10. 3 times 4 is 12. So you can say that she spent 10/12 of an hour studying. Or if you wanted to simplify that, they both can be divided by 2, which could be 5/6 of an hour studying each day. Let's try another one. On a test, you answered 4/5 of the questions. Of the questions that you answered, you got 3/4 correct. What fraction of the questions on the test did you get right? So stop and think. Is it a total amount or is it each individual? Well, if we read the last question, it says, what fraction of the questions on the test did you get right? So it wants to know the total amount that we got right. So it is a multiplication problem. So we need to box in that 4/5 of the questions are the ones you answered. Of those, you were able to get 3/4 correct. So that means my problem would be 4/5 times 3/4, sorry. 4 times 3 would give me 12, and then 5 times 4 would give me 20. So I could say I got 12/20 of the test correct. But we could also simplify this. I'm going to divide both of them by 4 because I know by looking up here that they're both multiples of 4. So 12 divided by 4 would give me 3. 20 divided by 4 would give me 5. So I could say I got 3/5 of the test correct. Okay, now it's your turn to try. Remember, multiplication is a total amount, where division is thinking about each individual. So I'm going to read these two, and then I want you to pause the video and think about how you would answer them before I answer them. Aaron buys a bag of peanuts that weighs 3/4 of a pound. Later that week, the bag is 2/3 full. How much does a bag of peanuts weigh now? Jackson wants to divide 3/4 pound box of trail mix into small bags. Each of these bags hold 1 1/12 pound of trail mix. How many bags of trail mix can Jackson fill? So pause the video, just write down the operation and how you would set it up, and then unpause the video when you're ready. Welcome back. So if we're looking at this first one, they are talking about how much does the bag weigh now. That's a total weight of the bag. So the first one is a multiplication problem. You would do 3/4 times 2/3 to get your answer, which is 6/12, or half a pound. The second one, if you think about it, each of the bags is telling you right there, each individual bag is 1/12. So that is telling you it is a division problem because they're looking at individual bags. So I would have done 3/4 a pound because that's the whole amount I have divided by 1/12. Try these two. Allison has half a cup of yogurt for making fruit parfaits. Each parfait requires 1/8 a cup of yogurt. How many parfaits can she make? If one honeybee makes 1/12 teaspoon of honey during its lifetime, how many honeybees are needed to make half a teaspoon of honey? Pause the video and then come back. Welcome back. So if I'm looking at the first problem, I notice that it tells me that for each parfait requires 1/8. So there it's looking at individuals once again. So this would be a half divided by 1/8 because we're talking about individual parfaits. The next one, if one honeybee makes 1/12, that's an individual. Each honeybee, one honeybee would be each. And we're trying to get to a total of a half of a teaspoon. So this one is actually division as well. I would also like to add this last problem would be a great problem to model. Actually, both of them would be great to model. Because if you know you have half a cup, if you can think about what half represents in 8 and what it represents in 12, you could actually model. For example, this first one, you could say, okay, so I have 1/8. Okay, then 1/8. So that would be 2/8, which is also 1/4. But then I have another 1/8 and another 1/8. Now I have 4/8 total, which is also a half. So that tells me that I could make 4 parfaits if they're each 1/8. So remember, modeling can help you as well when you're working word problems. Okay, try this one. Carly's making 3 1/2 batches of biscuits. If one batch calls for 2 1/3 cups of flour, how much flour will she need? Pause the video, then come back. Okay, hopefully you've worked it out. If we're looking at this, am I looking for individuals or am I looking for the total amount? In this one, you're looking for the total amount of flour that she's using because it's saying she's making 3 1/2 batches and one batch calls for 2 1/3. So that would be a total. You would have to do 3 1/2 times the 2 1/3. Okay, let's try one more. Deo has 2 3/8 pounds of hamburger meat. He is making 1/4 pound of hamburgers. Does Deo have enough meat to make 10 hamburgers? Explain. So we need to stop and think. Am I making a total amount, or am I looking for how many individual can I make? In this one, we're looking at individual because we know he's making 1/4 pound of hamburgers. And he only has 2 3/8, so he's splitting that up. So it would be 2 3/8 divided by 1/4. Well, I hope this video has given you the clues to decipher word problems. If you need any more help, come see me in the morning. If you are following along with my YouTube channel, feel free to email me and I can help in any way. To my 6th graders, keep going. You've got this. You'll do great on the test on Monday.